All right. No questions. Okay, awesome. So agenda-wise, if you notice when I sent the meeting request, I would have sent an agenda in that just this morning. So I'm going to go through with you just to highlight to you, okay, what it is that we're going to be focusing on today. Okay, so agenda-wise, and I'm going to zoom in a little for persons who may prefer it to be larger. We're going to get into the Office 365 suite. We are going to just take a look at what it provides you. Then we are going to focus on Microsoft Teams. Thereafter, we're going to get into a basic flow of SharePoint because of where SharePoint is going. We will touch basic flow of Power Automate as well. We will touch My Analytics, Microsoft My Analytics, which is my favorite offering out of the Microsoft suite. We'll also touch Microsoft Stream, and I think it was Angelo that asked if you have access to the recording. The recording is stored on Microsoft Stream, so we'll get into that so you can have an understanding of where your recordings are stored. And then at the end, we'll have a survey that you guys will do and participate in, which is a part of Microsoft Forms. So everything that is included today is a part of the session. Everybody's clear?
Yes.
All right, give me some vibes,
Yep.
guys. Learning is not gonna be boring. Wonderful, nice, I like it, Dion. Yeah, man, use up the little emojis at the top and communicate your sentiment as we speak. Okay, great. So let's jump into it. Does anybody know what the Microsoft suite is? The Office 365 suite. Don't make me be that
The
teacher.
Outlook, Excel, Access, Publisher.
Uh-huh.
Office applications, the suite of Office applications.
All right, suite of Office applications, Excel, Outlook. Anyone else?
Offered
One
by
more.
cloud, I think.
Repeat that.
I think it's offered through the cloud as well.
Offered through the cloud, right. Thanks, guys, for sharing. So the Office 365 suite is what we call a modern workplace platform. And this modern workplace platform allows you to essentially modernize what businesses call your back office, meaning anything that is used in your environment to produce intellectual property or content as an employee, individual contributor, or manager. You are able to use the Microsoft suite to automate everything in your environment back office wise. Okay, so just take a look at the screen there. How many of you were aware that your Office 365 platform gave you all of these applications? Just show of hands, just raise your hands. So you know the raise hand feature here. You can select raise hand right here. So I'd love to see who was aware of that. One person out of the 9, out of the 10 people. Okay, 2, 3, 4, not bad. 4, okay, so that's almost half, just 4 persons were aware. All right, great. So you have essentially all of these applications to use. Now I have another question for you. How many of you are using applications outside of what Westin said, which was Outlook, Excel, PowerPoint, and the typical applications? How many of you guys are using Microsoft Stream, Sway, Yammer, Power Apps? How many of you guys are using those types of applications?
Not me.
Not okay, no problem. I see some hands up from before. Are those the new hands for the question that I just asked? Anybody? All right, so I'm gonna guess that for the most part, most persons are using the traditional applications. So what we're going to do today is we're going to get into how you can leverage a plethora of the applications that you have, right? So let's just go through a few of these that we're seeing on the screen here. So in your Office 365 platform, feel free to lower your hand. You have a blend of these applications. You have bookings, calendar, customer voice, which speaks to if you are customer facing or even if you are public facing and your customers are your citizens. Remember, we're all serving somebody. You can get an idea of what their sentiment is through analytics. Delve does personal insights view of how you're interacting as a team. So it basically shows you team dynamics from an intellectual property perspective. You have Dynamics 365 for operations that typically comes in a higher version SKU like a Microsoft 365 Enterprise 3 or Enterprise 5. You have Excel. Most persons would be aware of what Excel is. Excel is a powerhouse of a platform when it comes to calculations and data analysis. You have Microsoft Forms, which allows you to create quizzes, different testing mechanisms as well, and polls. And you can also pull that data and port it into Excel. And I'll show you some of that today from the survey. You have Kaizala, which is essentially like a WhatsApp in Microsoft, but it is secure under the Enterprise Mobility Security offering. Lists, which is basically a to-do list, right? And you also have to-do. For these two, you might be saying, okay, this is duplicated or some form of duplicity happening. Microsoft is actually merging these two. So when you're using Microsoft Teams, you may see it make reference to the fact that list and to-do are merging because to-do actually came from an acquisition of Sunrise, which was a separate application outside of Microsoft. My Analytics, which is one of my favorite apps. My Analytics does analytics on how you work as an employee. And I have to show you this one. That one is on the agenda. OneDrive is where you store the data that you use regularly. OneNote is where you take your notes. So essentially, if you have a large diary or notebook, that's basically what OneNote is on your machine. Outlook, we're all aware of what Outlook is. People stores your contacts. Planner focuses on doing project coordination and not project management at that high level, but more coordinated efforts, right? Because most of us are managing some or coordinating some form of project. So Planner is a scaled down version of project. Power Apps allows you to create applications on the fly as you please through Excel and other ways. Power Apps, Power Automate, and Power BI is what is called the Power Platform. If you notice, all of them have Power at the front. Power Apps, Power Automate, which automates mundane and recurring tasks that you normally do. And the Power BI is the business analytics or business intelligence platform, which most of us are now calling the new Excel. PowerPoint for your presentations, Microsoft Project for your project and your program, enterprise program management, because it can manage NPV and the like. SharePoint for, as it's called, it's a share point. So you share all your content from one point, right? Stream, which allows you to share and stream content, right? And it's also an area where you can have training, classes, all the recordings from Microsoft Teams are actually stored in Microsoft Stream, okay? Sway, which is basically like an upgraded version of PowerPoint. For anybody familiar with Prezi, an application called Prezi? Anybody would have used Prezi any at all? Just raise your hand, right? So Sway is essentially like Prezi, except a lot more glossy and clean. Microsoft Teams, what we're using now, it is a collaborative and interactive platform. It's not just for calls. You collaborate and interact there. To do, we went through already. Whiteboard allows you to do whiteboarding. And Word, we all know Word. And Yammer is where you get to yap away. Yammer is basically an enterprise version of Facebook and the like. It's where you can use to actually speak and communicate as a team in a flow of social media way. Okay? So that's essentially it. We are clear on all the applications that you got. Just give me a little thumbs up, give me a heart, a smiley, whatever it is that you feel like sharing. And if you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat. I know Julie is on, so she can probably assist with just highlighting that there are questions. And if anyone else has any points to make or suggestions, feel free. This session is interactive. So if you're not talking to me, I will literally pick on you. Okay, I'm that sort of teacher, right? You're not going to be quiet in my class. We're going to all have fun together. Okay, so we're going to start off with Microsoft Teams. So I saw Dion, and I want to pronounce this name properly. Is it Gersino or Gersino?
It's Gersinho.
Gersino. Okay, cool. Nice. All right, so you guys can lower your hands. Dion. Right, good job. All right, awesome. So we're going to get into Microsoft Teams. So Microsoft Teams is what we are actually using now. I'm going to turn off my camera for now, just to ensure that we have proper bandwidth and we can get to focus on the content and not my face. Okay. All right, great. So I'm going to share back my screen again. And right now we are using Microsoft Teams. Now, as I mentioned, Microsoft Teams is a collaborative platform. However, I'm going to go through the conference call section first, and then I will move into the collaborative aspect. I'm going to lower your hand so that it doesn't confuse me in terms of whether or not you have a question, right? Okay, great. So in the conference call area, if you notice, Teams has recently updated the view of the conference call area. Before, this section used to be in the middle here. It's now at the top, and the leave button is right beside the presenter button. Just a little tip, be careful with how quick you might want to do that. I have done presentations recently and I'm just moving fast and I leave the call by accident. So take your time before you select ending the presentation. So the first section that we have is your participant section. Now, what can you do in your participant section? And also too, guys, just a pause here. If I'm saying anything that you're clear on already and you're bored, it's not connecting with you, raise your hand, open your camera, communicate with me. My role is to enhance your learning and to get you to want to try things and to enjoy the technology. It's not for me to teach at you. So if it's not connecting, if it's not landing, feel free to just stop me. I am totally open to that. Okay? All right. So I'm going to go through now. And as I was saying, read the participants. You can see all the persons who are in the meeting. Also, for the persons who have been invited and have not attended, you can see them in the others invited section. You can see the response that they gave. So say, for example, you're in a meeting and persons are asking, did the person accept or not? Instead of going to Outlook to double click the meeting, you can actually just find it straight in the participant section, okay? So you can find it there. Also, if you're in a meeting and you're saying, guys, we really need to include Adriana, she accepted and we need her in order to move forward, you can simply select request to join and it will call her, right? Microsoft Teams will call her directly to join the call. So let's go back up to the top here and let's select Chandra. So Chandra, who is a participant, you can mute, pin, spotlight, make an attendee. And what attendee means is that Chandra would not be able to present her screen. Let me pause. Am I speaking about a him or a her? I don't want to get that correct. Chandra?
Her.
Okay, fabulous. Good job. Thank you. Right. So if I make her an attendee, she will not be able to share her screen. I can also remove her from the meeting. However, I find that from an etiquette perspective, if you are going to remove someone from the meeting, let them know in advance. It can kind of come off as rude depending on which cultural context you come from. Okay? All right. So we can pin. Let me select pin. What it does is it pins Chandra's screen. So all the persons to the right are headed over here, right beside the participants, and then Chandra is there. So if you have a main presenter and Chandra is that main presenter, you want to pin her screen so it focuses predominantly on her screen. That is very much possible, right? So let's unpin. You can also spotlight. Now, spotlight is a little different. Spotlight actually highlights the person. You'll highlight this video for everyone in the meeting. It actually highlights the person with their video on, right? So when I select spotlight, the idea is that Chandra would have her video open and then the spotlight will be on her. So the difference between pin and spotlight is pin is pinning the presentation itself, meaning the content, and spotlight is spotlighting on the individual. Just imagine it's like a stage and the spotlight, that's the concept there, okay, is on the person. So these are essentially the options that you have for each participant in the call. You can also mute everybody on the fly, and that's very much possible there. Let me pause. Dion, you have a question?
Hi, Lisa. Why would we want to spotlight someone?
You'd want to spotlight somebody in case you have a scenario where, for example, maybe because you're from government, right? In case maybe you have a cabinet meeting and there's a particular minister that's presenting, maybe they would, I know at particular levels, everybody likes to keep their video open and some people's video can be very distracting. So you spotlight one person so that the focus is only on that individual and everyone can close their video. You understand?
Okay. Yeah.
So it's really, yeah, it is really just, if you notice the technology is born out of what is done physically. When you're in a meeting physically, if people are not focused on one person in a particular area, they can get distracted. So that's the purpose for having the spotlight feature.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. All right, great. So let's move on to the chat. So the chat section, if you notice, has a very high level of accountability. So if you notice at the beginning, when I started the call, it highlights the exact time that the call began. It also highlights when Adriana was invited to the meeting, when Marcy was invited to the meeting from the 14th of June. So it's even highlighting meeting changes. As persons join the chat, by timestamp, it's included. So there's also a section where you can actually pull down the data associated with the meeting from it. Now, this is really helpful for persons who manage very high level meetings, or it doesn't matter. Any meeting, you need meeting minutes for reference for accountability. So it's very important to have this information, right? Not only that, but you also note when the recording is started. And you can also use the chat area to write different things. So you may want to write, hello all. Hope you are having a great session. Right? You can also change the font type and that sort of thing. You can add smileys. I love using these things because I find that it communicates sentiment much easier. You can also use GIFs, and feel free as I'm going through, you can type in as well along with me because it's in the same screen. So you won't be distracted. You'll actually be working along with me. So feel free to put in your GIFs and interact with me as well. So, all right, let us use this one, Mrs. Doubtfire. Right? So you can feel free to use these as well. Also, you have different memes. Now, if you notice, because of the workforce integration that we have generationally, a lot of persons communicate in many different ways. Some persons communicate best via these sort of items, while you have persons who type a lot, right? So you may want to communicate in this way. You can add a top caption, a bottom caption. You can add all different things. It gets really fun. You have legal types, you know, that sort of thing. So feel free to use it and get creative. And you man, type in the chat, do it as well. Type in the chat here and add your gifts if you're able to do so. Feel free to participate as well, right? So you can use that, and you can also attach files, and you can also add applications as well. So for example, let's select forms. I can actually add the poll data here. So I can add questions. So I may say question, how did you find the session? And I can add multiple options. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Share results automatically after voting and keep the responses anonymous. So I can save that, right? And then I can send it. So not only that, right? In the session, I literally can, and I'll do another one for the session, right? I literally, if I'm having a hosting or a training session, right? In my organization, whether for you, if it's government or private sector, and you're doing a training maybe on cybersecurity or something to that effect, you can use in the same session, instead of going to something new, you can highlight the feedback and have persons respond, right? And this is very interactive. If you recall, Skype for Business actually had this, where you were able to do it. So it's essentially the same technology, and it makes it much faster, and you're able to really interact and have a great time and do it quickly. So let's move forward to the way how you can show sentiment. I see most persons were able to do this. You can put a like, you can put a heart, applause, laugh, and raise your hand. I find a lot of people using the laugh more. There's a lot of laughing in meetings, and that's good. Use it, guys, because a lot of us know, because, and I like to really talk about this, because we're not meeting physically. It's very difficult for us to interact socially, and we are social beings. So use as much as you can to communicate your sentiment so that things can communicate and land well in terms of what it is that you are trying to say. Okay? All right. And then we also have breakout rooms. So breakout rooms, if you imagine that you are going to a physical event, yes? Breakout rooms allow for you to be able to break out the main room. So just imagine there, for example, you've come to an event and we're breaking out the rooms by industry. We may say manufacturing, marketing, we may say banking and finance, and so forth. You can select the breakout rooms based on that. Now you can select up to 50 of them. And then you can also have the persons assigned automatically or manually. Now, I find that if it's a situation where you're doing it based on some form of team building exercise, you may want to do it from an automatic perspective if you're trying to integrate persons across the organization. If you're doing it based on an event where persons have to be segmented by industry, or the team building event is focused on units and different teams that are of the same area, you want to do it manually as well. Okay, and you can create the rooms, right? Now I'm gonna pause here before I move to the ellipses. Are there any, the 3 dots, are there any questions before I move on? Am I going too fast? Is the pace fine?
Yes, it is. I see start transcription. What's that all about?
We're gonna get there. So we're going in order.
Oh, okay.
We'll get there, definitely.
Oh, sorry.
No, man, that's fine, man. I like that you're asking a question. That's good. So we're going to go down. Start transcription is actually one of my favorite features of Teams, and it's been a feature that's been developing over time since I've started to do these sessions in 2018. All right, so let's go from the top. This was recently added where you can add an application straight in. Now remember, it is a collaborative platform. So say, for example, we're meeting as marketing, or we're meeting as sales, or we're meeting as services or operations. And we need to bring up a particular application that has content that we need to view together, review, edit, and also finalize. We can select that application together as a team and attach it into the call in order for us to review. Okay, so that's what the Add App section does. In the device settings section, you are able to change your audio devices, your speakers, and your microphone. Now, I always suggest that if you have, for example, a session like this, or you are going to a meeting that has a lot less patience, typically at a high level, right? I always recommend that persons ensure that their device settings are on point. Recently, Microsoft Teams added the noise suppression feature because most of us are working from home, and some of us have children who just open a door and that's them with the noise. So the noise suppression feature is there. I have 2 children, and trust me, sometimes I'm on a call, Julie can tell you, and here comes my son and my daughter. So you're using the noise suppression to prevent that, because some persons actually get very distracted by noise. Most of us do. So you can actually use it. You can also use the camera here. You can change the camera for those who have multiple cameras or attachment cameras, or you may have additional device cameras through maybe your monitor, etc. You can change the camera location based on what you are trying to communicate. I see there's a chat there. Okay, somebody else joined. Great. Cool. I think someone's mic is open, so feel free to just mute because we're hearing the background. Wonderful. All right, great. So then this area, this one is new to me. It's actually called Call Health. So nice. So we can actually see the time, the packet loss. Now, for those of us who come from a very technical background, this sort of data is very similar to what you would get in your command prompt. So, you know, when you don't have internet and you're trying to ping Google, right? It's the same sort of data there, the round trip data, the time, and that sort of thing. Very similar to that. Just bringing that up real quick. If it flew past you, you know, we can talk about it another time. But that data is there, and this is just really to share what is causing an issue if you have a challenge. Now, the reason that Microsoft would put something in like this is because we find a lot in dialoguing with customers that they may blame the software for the challenges that they have, when in truth and in fact, it's the bandwidth. And the truth of the matter is that most of us are online physically at home, and sometimes the internet at home or even at offices as well, I find recently, it's just really bad at times because we're all demanding the network very heavily now, right? So this data is there so that you can have a recording of what is going on in terms of how you're actually receiving network data, what the audio is like, what the video is like, and the screen sharing as well, right? And you can also view more data. So let's dig into some of that. Oh, it's getting very, okay, nice. It's getting very detailed here. And this data can be used as well. So say, for example, you may have had a meeting and the meeting didn't take place. Or maybe persons tried to get on, they were on and it was really bad, and someone in technology or someone in strategy has to write a report to say why it didn't take place and what caused it. Then you can actually use this content to justify why you may have had a challenge, right? Making sense for you where call health is concerned? That's clear? Feel free to send a thumbs up. All right, great. I'm gonna pause because I see some people like they are not hearing from them. Greg is still there? Hello, Greg?
Yes, I'm here. I am here.
Good. I'm just making sure, you know. I'm that sort of teacher, you know.
I'm very well here. I'm very much here.
Good. Herbert, you're on. You're on as well.
Yeah, Herbert in the same room right here listening.
Oh, is that so? Okay,
Yes.
nice. We're gonna get to the camera section soon, so I'm looking forward to that with you guys. We're gonna get into the together mode. All right, so we have meeting options, which is the next one. And this allows you to edit the meeting options. Now, this is only able to be viewed by the person who creates the meeting. If you're in the meeting now and you try to check this, you're not gonna have it, yes? So this is predominantly for the organizer of the meeting, okay? Whether or not I'll allow people to bypass the lobby, who can present, allow for attendees to open their mics, etc. Now you can use all of these based on the etiquette of your organization and also the types of meetings that you have. For certain meetings, leaving the mics open for people to open is not advised. Some persons come on, they're distracted, they're in their cars, etc. It's better for you to have the mics unavailable or you control that. Also, for the camera as well, sometimes it might be best to close that too, depending on the type of meeting. I've had some challenges there at times with persons coming on and the camera is automatically open. Before you join a call, ensure that you test your camera and your mic beforehand to ensure that you don't have any surprises or challenges going on. Okay? All right, great. So this is the meeting options area. So let us go also to meeting notes. So I am a huge note taker, yes? So for those of us who take notes manually in a meeting, you may be multitasking and you're listening and typing at the same time or writing physically, you can actually take notes associated with the meeting itself. So say, for example, you do have a meeting that is being led by yourself and you have a note taker assigned, they can actually use the application, take the notes in it, and the notes will be stored associated with the meeting so you can find it back at another time, okay? And then you have meeting info. The meeting info is the exact same information that's in the Outlook info. No different. It's the exact same thing. The only difference is that this is white and this is black. And that's because of the way how I set up the items. And I'm going to try to find out how I can change Outlook to a dark theme so that I can have it easy on my eyes, you know? Right. So that's essentially all it is. That's what the meeting info is. So you have gallery mode, which allows you to show everybody's bubble with their initials. And then you have together mode. Now, together mode is where you have all persons joined together in a scene. Now, I need persons to open their camera so that we can actually display together mode. So let's go and do that now. Camera time. All right, don't leave me alone in the class. Is me one come to the class? Oh gosh. Thank you. Okay, geez, yes, come and join me in the class, man. When you used to go to school and you're in the class and you want to hurry up and find your friends and sit, lovely. I like it, guys. Not only that, but you can also change the scene. So you can have a classroom setting like we're back in school, primary school, yes. Wow, I'm definitely, and you see, okay, I like that. I am the organizer. So you see, I'm the teacher. There we go. Where's my apple? And then you have the students in the class, right? So that is for a student-teacher scenario. And then you may have what I like to call the parliamentary scenario or the lecture scenario, which is similar to this one for me. So for those of us, I know there are a lot of government persons here. From TIU, you may have this setup as well, where everybody's there. This is typically how Parliament is set up, except it's not on a level. So you may have the lecturer style or whatever, and then you can also have the panel style, right? So you can have the panel here, like this one, right? There, you see what I mean? You feeling the vibe? So you can use the different scenes, and this helps. So you notice you guys are smiling, you know, you're more open, you're more engaged. Together mode does that all the time. So I would highly recommend, if you're going to have a session or a meeting that is extremely tense, use this. This can definitely soften the tension. Remember, meetings are not only about finishing the task, but it's also managing how the task is executed, because you may not be able to finish it if you don't manage how people come into the meeting, right? Okay, very important. So thank you so much, all you lovely people. And let me just take a screenshot. Don't leave yet. I have to take a snippy whippy whips. Yes, I have to take a snip. I am snipping. Love it. Awesome.
What?
Wonderful. I got a snip. Okay, good. And I'm going to ask for permission to post that too. Thank you. Right. So everybody gonna leave me. Woo. All right, let me just move from together mode now. So we're going back to gallery. And I'm going to, there's another feature now where you can put the gallery on top. So that means that you can move me up top here, right? You have full screen, which is obvious. Apply background effects. So background effects has to do with the backgrounds that I want to apply. So I was in a meeting with a minister recently, and I think, which was the one she used again? I think she used this one, like a, right, you know, so this is my son here. He'd use one of these. For me though, I'm really simple. Yes. My Inova background is quite fine for me, or this one is really beautiful as well. I enjoy this one. Now, what I would also recommend, and this is just some suggested meeting etiquette, okay? I really don't only focus on the tech, it's also about how we can learn as people, right? If you are going to a meeting and you are leading the meeting, even if you have background effects, I also suggest that your background itself can manage if it doesn't work. Okay? You understand? This is my actual background. So you notice that it looks okay. I recommend that if you are leading a meeting, ensure that your background is also looking nice as well, or else you may have a challenge where if this isn't working, we have an issue, okay? So my recommendation to you is to ensure that your actual background is fine, and also you have this sort of like a contingency, because life is life and things can happen at the worst possible time. Okay, all right, but these are the backgrounds and you can use it. You can also add as you please. So for us, I believe we had there was a day that we, right, Julie, let me see if Julie is still in the call. We had our Christmas event and I was singing. Yes, I was singing, you know. And we were able to use like a Christmas background. So you can also apply your own background. So the background that we have for Inova, that was created by marketing, it's not automatic. Marketing actually created it. So you can create your own background. I know TIU has theirs, so big up to TIU. I know you guys did that. Big up Greg and the team online.
Thank you very
But for
much.
those, you're welcome. But for those of you who haven't used it before, feel free to just add a new background and let's actually try it. Let me see if I have some pictures. Let me use this one because I think this was one of the Christmas backgrounds we were trying out. So there we go, and I apply it. See? Right? So you can use it. Okay, so I'm going back to the other one now, the nice professional one. And we're gonna go through, so live captions. Now, my favorite features in Teams is these three. And why is that so? because I take notes. And for those of you guys who take notes on this call, you're gonna love live captions. Live captions allows you to have the spoken word being come up as you speak, and it highlights who is speaking. Now, what I've noticed is that this technology initially wasn't so great because remember, everybody's accent is different and there are different forms of English across the world. There are different forms of languages, whether it's Cantonese, German, Dutch, Spanish, right? But it has definitely improved. And also, as you're speaking, person's little bubble comes up, so you notice my face is there. So not only are you seeing the words, but you're seeing the person's face so they can know who is speaking. So someone else who wants to speak, feel free to jump in and you'll see your bubble come up as well. Anybody feels like talking?
Well, hi there.
There you go. So it works just fine. All right, awesome. No problem, Dion. And it's totally fine if your kids are around, if your dog is there. We understand.
Sorry, quick question. What is the name of the feature?
It is called Turn On Live Captions. So it's live captions.
Okay, thank you.
Not a problem. So we have the recording section here. Angelo, I believe you were asking something.
No, I just said quiet audience.
Oh, quiet. No, it's okay. We soon get to that, man. We soon make sure everybody not quiet. All right. And then we have the transcription section. Now, the transcription section is my favorite because the transcription section basically does all the notes for me. So after I finish this call, man, and transcription running, I just pull that and that's my meeting minutes. I just do my little edits in Word, bam, send, shared. It's my favorite.
Yeah, I like that feature. I've been
It's
watching
a great,
for a while now.
it's marvelous. And you know why it's so good, guys? Because it allows you to focus in the meeting. The challenge that we have as people is if we are doing more than one thing at a time, we're not focusing on the primary objective necessarily. So if you're in a meeting and you're presenting like myself, I cannot type or transcribe at the same time. It's very difficult. I have to stop talking and then look back up at you and do so. So for even you guys on the call know if you're typing or trying to do something else or you're taking another call, it can also distract you from just focusing on the activity itself. So this allows you to focus and be more attentive, and it also improves productivity and accountability for teamwork as well. Clear?
Yes.
That's wonderful. Fabulous. All right, so we're almost done with the conference call section of Microsoft Teams. So you have I'm going to hide the transcript because it doesn't have to show the whole time. And I'm going to turn off the live captions because if it's a situation where we are doing the transcript, we don't necessarily have to have the live captions on. But remember also that the live caption section is really a part of the accessibility feature of Microsoft. Let me pause. Go ahead, West. Can you pronounce that name? Am I pronouncing it right? Westine?
Winstein.
Winstein. Okay, cool. That's nice.
Yeah, I raised my hand by accident.
Okay, not a problem. All right, awesome. So the next area is the dial pad. Now this has to do with if your Teams is connected with telephony, video conferencing and telephony, and it allows you to dial straight out. It is possible for us to help you with that if that's an area that you really want to do. You can let us know. We're happy to serve you in that area where you're able to just call straight to a phone from your Microsoft Teams. And then you have turn off incoming video. This has to do with when a presenter may be having bandwidth challenges after looking at the call health or noticing some form of lag. And you can turn off the incoming video to ensure that you have enough bandwidth to complete your presentation or activity. Let me check the chat to see. All right, great, cool. Okay, awesome. And then we have the camera section, which is obvious. You turn off, you turn on. The mute button, you turn off, you turn on. This is the sharing area, which allows you to share screens, applications, and it allows you to share a whiteboard as well. So you can share a whiteboard straight across. And this is the leave button. I'm not going to click it or else I'm going to end up coming out of the call. Okay. And this is essentially it for the calling section or the conference call section of Microsoft Teams. And now I'm going to get into the Teams section itself. All right. Please let me know if there are any questions. Wenstein, your hand is still up, or Wenstein. Right. Let me make sure that I have that. All right, I'm going to just lower it for you. No problem. All right, great. So any questions before we move on to the next section of Teams? Everybody is clear on this. So everybody can do everything. Everybody know where to find the stuff. Okay, thumbs up. Nice, thanks. Okay, how is everybody doing? Let's check in on everybody. All right. Larnell, I know you've been interacting. Wonderful. Great. Herbert. Well, Herbert is beside Greg, right? I heard that before.
Yes, yes.
Okay. I know Dion is there. All right, great. Ashley. I haven't heard from Ashley. Ashley? Hi, Ashley. Just making sure you're good.
I'm fine, thanks.
Wonderful. Ashley, have you been to a session before? This name is familiar.
No, this is actually my first. I joined the team last week.
Okay, cool. Nice to meet you and welcome to the TIU team and to the Inova family as well. Great. All right. So now we are going to move over to Microsoft Teams itself. Now, if you notice with Microsoft Teams, you have a lot going on. A lot of persons believe that Microsoft Teams is just for the conference calling, but Microsoft Teams is a collaboration platform. And I just want to see how many persons are aware of the fact that Microsoft Teams is a collaboration platform. Or did people just, okay, great, one person out of 2, 3, anybody else? 4. All right, great. That's good to hear. 5, nice. So tell me now, how do you guys collaborate via Microsoft Teams right now?
We know it's a collaboration platform, but basically we're using it now just for, the conference part.
Okay.
And yeah, chat sometimes.
So predominantly chat and the conference part. Okay.
We as well use that. As well, we use SharePoint for share information as well.
Okay, great. So you're using SharePoint in Teams. Good, good, good. Can anybody tell me the link between SharePoint and Teams? Is anybody aware of the fact that SharePoint and Teams are linked? Can anybody share that with me? I'm curious to see if anybody knows that. Anyone? All right, everybody's quiet. So let me show you. So we're gonna go back to here. So we have a panel area here. This is how the Teams area looks. So we have the activity section, which shows you what is going on activity-wise, right? Now, if you notice, the activity section speaks to the interaction that has been happening specifically for me, right? Then you have the chat area. The chat area speaks to who you've been speaking with regularly and recently, as it would say. You have the teams section now, which speaks to where it is or what is happening teams wise, right? So you have that area there. Then you have the calendar section. Now the calendar section is, the calendar is essentially the exact same thing here, okay? The calendar in Outlook is the same calendar in Microsoft Teams. It's no different, right? The only difference is the color, all right? Now, for me, I like to use the color coding, and I'll show that to you just in terms of how that helps me. And we'll get into that in terms of the My Analytics side. Then you have the call section. The call section is basically like a call log. There's some people you have pinned. You have your different contacts. It shows you your history. And you also do have voicemail. Was anyone aware that you had voicemail in Teams?
Yes.
What is who just say yes, Angelo? All right, Angelo, you're on the ball. Okay. All right. So voicemail actually is in Teams, and people actually use voicemail. As you can see, I have a number of voicemails here. All right. And then you have the file section. Now the file section actually integrates with OneDrive. Was anybody aware of that? So now we're touching on a little bit of OneDrive. Did you guys know that Microsoft Teams integrates with all of the other applications that we showed originally here?
Yes.
Are you guys aware of that? Wonderful. That's good to know. So Greg and Angelo are, yeah, man, them read the book in advance. They were practicing at home in their spare time. That's good. Good job. Wonderful. Would you like to share how you knew that? Did you go to a session and you were taught, or were you just playing around? Did you read? How did you learn that? And what have you found from the experience?
For me, it was more playing around and, you know, just discovering things.
Okay. Okay, great. Good stuff.
It's the same for me. I play around with the software myself and Richard. And we learned a lot of things about the software.
That's good. So the curiosity for you is how you learned.
And especially with the SharePoint feature, what I do like about it is that, for example, I lead a procurement team. And if my team and I are working on a report, we can both be in the report at the same time, see the changes made same time, and it is being saved. So it doesn't require me sending them an email and then I try to look on the different emails and try to bring it together.
Wonderful. That's exactly right. So we're going to actually demonstrate that together as well, myself and Julie, and probably Marcy included. But I wanted to show as well that OneDrive, the same OneDrive that sits in your section here, it actually sits in Teams. So the OneDrive that is here, as I said, the OneDrive for your company that sits here is the same OneDrive that sits in Teams. The only difference between here and now that I notice is that it has a setting where it shows you the most recent areas of focus and use. Okay. So you have OneDrive here, but also you can add other cloud storage as well if you want. You can integrate Dropbox, Box, Ignite, ShareFile, and also Google Drive. It's very much possible to do those integrations as well. Naturally, it's easier to integrate with the same and like technology. So we always recommend that you integrate with OneDrive first. However, if it's a situation where you're trying to transition and you really need to get the files now, you're able to integrate with other platforms, okay? So that's the file section. And the community section, you notice this same logo here? Anybody remember this logo? Where this logo come from? Right here. You notice it's the same thing, Yammer? All right, so we're gonna go back, and this Yammer section here, which is the communities as it says, is the area where we actually communicate together, right? So we use Yammer very heavily internally as Inova. We use it to communicate new members of staff, when we have holidays, celebrating someone doing an exam, celebrating an award, doing a poll, asking for help, asking for guidance, and we just have a lot of fun together on Yammer. And I would recommend using it because most persons communicate in this way now when they just want to relax a little bit and they want to just have some fun with their colleagues, okay? So feel free to use it. So if you notice, the Teams platform is fast becoming the central use model. So just as how you would have been using Outlook predominantly, Teams is now becoming more of that platform for you. Okay? All right, so I'm gonna pause here. Are there any questions specifically for Microsoft Teams that you guys would like assistance with before we go into the co-authoring aspect and other aspects as well in Teams? You guys quiet, man. Leslie Ann?
I am here, although
Alright.
unfortunately I'll have to drop off shortly for another meeting.
Oh, okay, I see. Thanks for letting me know.
You're
All
welcome.
right, not a problem. Larnell, any questions for you? Jordan?
Moment.
None at the moment, okay. All right, no problem. All right, so we're gonna move forward. Let me check if there are any chats there. Okay, all right, so everyone is still there, cool. So now we're going to go across and we're going to create a Teams. Does everybody know how to create a Teams from scratch? Everyone is clear on how to do that? How to create a Microsoft Teams?
No.
No? Okay, so that's two people who don't know. I don't see anybody else raising their hands. Let's see. No, nobody, no. All right. All right, so with that being said, let's get into it. All right, so Larnell and Dion, you guys know how to create teams. Cool, so that's two
No,
out of... No, not at all. Oh, the answer is no with the hand.
No, I mean, no.
No, okay, all right. Well, then with that being said, I'm going to get into it. So, okay, in the team section here, so remember this is activity and chat. So that has to do with what is going on with your teams. In the team section here, you are able to section it in areas. You have pin teams. Those are the teams that you focus on predominantly, your main teams and teams that you've hidden, right? So in this area here, so look at my cursor. You notice my cursor is purple, right? Okay, so I'm right down here, right beside this gear and right beside these two lovely people with a little plus sign in a circle. And we're going to select join or create a team. I'm going to select now, create team. You can create a team from scratch, from a group or team, or you can select one of these templates. Now, for the past 3 years since I've been doing this, it only used to be these two options. But as we start to improve on the technology, I noticed that there are different types of teams being created and added. Right, so what we're going to do is we're going to select this team called Adopt Office 365. And what it's saying is we're going to create a champion community to drive the adoption. Since we're in an adoption session, let's create a teams like that. Great. So what it's saying here is that it's going to help build and grow and sustain champions in the community. And then it highlights that there are different channels. Now, in a team, you can have multiple channels. Each channel speaks to a different section. So all of these 5 channels have different purposes. There's a general channel, announcement, champions corner, team forms, and calendar. And then there are 2 apps, the channel calendar and the wiki, right? So we're moving forward. So I'm going to make this a public team, and the reason that I'm going to make it public is we're doing adoption, and adoption is for everybody, not just for a set group of persons. You may decide that you want to do private because maybe you're setting up a teams from an HR perspective, or maybe an operational or finance perspective or legal perspective. So you're going to have to make that teams private. But in a public scenario, it's for anyone in the organization to join. Not everybody inside of the world can join your team. That's not what public means. It's just public to your org. So we're going to call this adopt with Inova.
Hello?
Yeah, I thought it was me, but probably.
Yeah, it looks like it's on her side.
Hi, everyone. Hello. Hi, guys. Are you
Hi.
hearing me? Hi, this is
Yes.
Julie. Okay, so can we go on a 10-minute break? Lacey actually just lost power, so she should be back on shortly. So let's take a 10-minute break and we will be back on. Right?
Hey.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. So I believe our host, Lacey, has lost electricity, unfortunately, so I'll be taking over from her at least until she returns. Larnell, I think you have a question? Yes, sir.
Oh, no, I don't. You see my hand up?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
All right, no problem. I believe we're on break now as well, Julie. Is that the case?
Yeah, I think 10 minutes has elapsed already, so that's fine.
Okay, great. All right, so I'll need to be caught up as to what we have covered so far, so I know how to continue.
Jermaine, you have the agenda, yes?
Let me locate it. All right, I'm seeing it here. What have we covered so far? Can someone help me out?
She was actually just going through how to integrate SharePoint and OneDrive.
Okay. So we're still on SharePoint. So the agenda that I see, and I'll post it in the chat for everybody to see as well. So we're on the same page. So we've already gone through the overview of the suite, Microsoft Teams, and Lacey was currently on SharePoint. Is that the case?
Yeah, she was doing SharePoint and integration of OneDrive. Or did she finish that? Was she doing a, no, she was creating a Teams. That's correct, right, guys? She was creating a Teams. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
She was creating Teams, meaning she was still on Microsoft Teams, or she had started
No,
SharePoint?
she was creating a Teams in Team.
Oh, so we're still on Microsoft Teams then? Is that?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I'll do, it may make sense. So just give me 1 sec. Let me just maybe clear my background so I can share my screen and continue. So give me a minute and then we can get on with the program. So I'll be right back. All right, so I think I am all set to go. So we're in the middle of creating a team, so let me share my screen. I believe we're already recording, so that's good. All right, so I imagine we already went over the steps of creating the team, or were we in the middle of that?
In the middle of that.
In the middle of it. Okay, perfect. All right, so I'll just do a quick run over. So to the bottom left of the Teams application, you'll usually see an option to join or create team. So you can join a team that is a part of your organization. And as you see over the right-hand side here, for me, there are some teams that I have the ability to join based on, other departments and what they would have created. So there's a customer success team that if I click on join team now, I would be a part of that team. There's a marketing team, which has, Adriana and some persons from the marketing team here. There's a Dynamics Business Central team and so on. So these are public teams. That's why it gives me the ability to join, or they could be teams that are part of a group that I'm a part of as well. So for example, if you have a marketing group or operations group in Office 365, you can make the criteria for joining that team based on a group, right? So bear that in mind. If you wish for your teams not to be shown, then you would simply need to make them private. If they're private, they will not show for persons in this list. All right, so once I click on create team, which is what we want to do, I have two options. I can create it from scratch, which means I would need to enter those details, or from a group like I would have just mentioned before. There are also templates that we can take advantage of. So if I wanted to have a specific template for that team created, I could look at these options, use the one that matches closely to what I need, and then select it, and it'll serve as like a starting point. And we see templates all across Office 365, and that's because Microsoft wants to make it easy for us to get our functions done, right? So I'm gonna select from scratch, and we have two options here. Private, as I was saying before, it would not show on the first screen, and I would need to provide you with permission to join, or we can do a public, and it would allow anybody within my organization to join. So I'm going to choose public first, and then I'm going to show you how we can change that to private. So let's call this master your solutions. I'm going to select create. And what this is doing at the same time is it has now created a team as well as a SharePoint site for this team. And then I can now add persons to this team from my organization. So for Julie, who is in this call with us, if I type in her name, I'll see her appear here. So that's one way to add persons. If I also wanted to add somebody from this meeting, let's say I wanted to add Greg, all right? So I want to copy his email, type it in here, and it will allow me to add him as guest, right? So I hope everyone is able to see my screen okay, by the way. If you're not, let me know. Okay. All right, so I'll add Greg. I'll select add. And so they're both added now, but there are two main differences for me to show. One, Greg will show up as guest here because he's not a part of my organization. And this means though that we can still add persons who are not a part of our organization to a team once we have their email address. What they will see on their end is an invitation from me to join a team. They would click on it, they would need to authenticate, and then they would join this team. So Greg, I'll ask you to just click on the link you would have received and go ahead and join the team. Next, we see Julie is assigned member, and I can switch her to owner, and that is just really based on the default settings for teams. So organization team members can be owner or a member. Owners have the ability to delete the team, to make certain changes. Members can, you know, make changes really based on the team's administrator settings. So that's really not within the scope of the session, but do understand that you have control over, you know, pretty much how the team is managed or how persons can operate in it. All right, so I'm going to leave her as member for now and hit close. So this team has been created, right? So let me just locate it here. Yes, so it's the Master Your Solutions team. So I can add more persons here. So let me just get another email address. So let me see someone else here. Weinstein, hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. Please forgive me if I'm not. I'm gonna add as well. I'm gonna add one more person. I'm gonna add Larnell as well. Can I have your email, Larnell? I'm not seeing it when I mouse over your name.
All right, I'm gonna type it in the chat.
All right, perfect. And anyone else who wants to join the team, just type your email and, you know, we'll get to it. So a couple of things that I can do from here. Each team defaults with a general channel, and this channel, you can think of it as a place where we can all, you know, speak as a team that has now been formed. We can, you know, upload our post files here. We can, you know, create what's called a wiki in terms of, let's say that we wanted to have some information here to state the rules of engagement for this. You know, so we could call this maybe onboarding, so everyone who joins this team can get, you know, their terms and policies of being a part of this group, right? And we could, this is a live document that can be worked on by anyone. And once you join this team, you'll be able to see it. We can add content and sections, everything that we need to do. We can also add applications, right, through tabs. So there's a plus sign to the right of the team. Once you click on that, you'll see the options come up to add a tab. From this tab, we could do a lot of things. Every office, well, most office services and applications would connect through here. So if I wanted to add a Yammer community, I could do that. If I wanted to add forms, if I wanted to add, you know, SharePoint pages or a Power BI dashboard, I can do that here. And we have some third-party applications as well. And usually with these applications, if they require a login, you will need to log in. Once you've logged in, you'll be able to use the application based on how it was built. And I say that because typically the team's applications are a little bit scaled down and allow you to accomplish some of the core functions without giving you the full-blown application within Teams. And once you see it, you'll understand what I mean. So let's start with something simple, or actually let's get to this at a later point. So I'm going to close this tab for now. We also have some options here. So for example, I can start a meeting with this team. If I click meet now, it will start an impromptu meeting, and persons who are in the team will see here that a meeting has started. Now I can't click on it, unfortunately, because if I do, it's going to put this current meeting I'm in on hold. And I could also schedule a meeting. So let's say that I wanted to do that very quickly. So we'll call this follow-up. And it should be posted in the team by default. So I shouldn't have to put attendees, it will just include those persons. And let's set it for, you know, 2 o'clock today. And I'm just gonna say this is a follow-up. So I'm gonna send that. It will add it to my calendar, and it will also show in the general section for the team. So everybody who is a part of this team can click on this meeting, and when it starts, it will show you that a meeting is underway. But once you're a part of this team, you'll be able to see it. So I see Julie is a part of the team already, so I can just, you know, like that post that she just made. We can do other things as well, same things that you're able to do with same things that you can do with SMS or chat. You know, you can, you know, format text, you can add, you know, different components here. All of that is standard. I believe you would have seen at saw form being uploaded earlier. I'm imagining you already have that experience, so we won't do that. I can attach a file here. So I can go to my OneDrive, I can browse the teams and channels that are there, or I can upload from my computer. So let's say I'm going to do something like, I'm gonna save the photo that Julie shared, download it to my computer. Then I'm gonna add that file to this section here. I'm gonna upload. It's the image I just pulled. And I'm gonna ask everyone to check this out. And the good thing about this chat is, regardless of the point of which you join this team, you'll see the entire conversation history. So it's not for you to worry about whether or not, you know, you're joining the team now when the team was, you know, created 2 years ago. You'll be able to see the entire conversation history for the last 2 years, which, you know, may be good or bad depending on your organization. So just be sure that the team that you create and the conversations that you have, the files that you share, are relevant. Now, this is a public team so far. That's how it was created. If I wanted to change this to a private team, I can. I could go to the Manage Team settings, and I can see some options for the team. The first screen, it shows me the persons who are a part of the team. So if I wanted to promote, you know, Julie from member to owner, I can do that. And then she'll move up to this list of owners, and it means that she will have the ability to modify settings as I'm able to. And, you know, if I wanted to change some settings, we only have one channel. So, okay, great. Lacia is back. So, Lacia, if you want to retake control, you can.
Sure.
You know, I'm sure I'm not, you know, being as engaging as you were. So.
Oh, don't say those things. Okay. Thank you so much, everybody. This is Work From Home Life, right? Light goes and it comes back, right? So thanks very much, Jermaine, for jumping in to support.
Sure.
As you can see here, we're a team at Inova. So if I'm unavailable, someone else is available. That's totally fine. Okay, so I see where, Jermaine, you had gotten into the Teams chat. So you had finished completing the Teams. That's where
Yes,
you were.
so we created the team, and what I was doing is showing the settings and the controls that you have within the team. So let me just add you to the team so that you can just.
I can continue with that one. Great, that sounds good. Because actually most of the persons here did not know how to create one actually.
Okay.
So, right, so it was very good that you got a chance to finish that. Okay, I see where I've been added to the teams.
Yes. And you're, so you have full control.
Thanks very much for that. Okay, awesome. So guys, thank you so much for your patience. What a drama. Ah! All right, thanks very much for your patience with that. For those of us in Jamaica, JPS was quite nice and decided to give me back the light. So, okay. All right. So Jermaine actually added me to the teams, and I wanted to show where I got these 2 prompts on the right-hand side that said, I've been added to the teams as a team member. So I'm just going to go over to the team section here to check and see which teams I was added to. Can you just remind me of the name of it? Let me go up and see it. Master your solutions. Nice. Okay, great. So let me just look for that Teams. Here we go. So here it is. So I've been added to this Teams. Wonderful. Thanks very much. Okay, so I see where we added some other persons. Julie is on. Great. So in the last section before, when I was creating the Teams, we were talking about the fact that I think it was the very curious guys, it was Angelo and Greg. They were highlighting that they had actually gone in the environment and did their own research, and they know how to do the working together and the co-authoring. Greg, you were the one saying that because you head up procurement, you used that on the fly, right? That's what you were highlighting before, right, Greg? Greg, are you there?
I think he might have stepped out of the office.
Uh-oh.
Multitasking.
Okay. He's
But yes.
multitasking. Okay. So Herbert, you work with Greg because you guys are in the same room, right? So you do the co-authoring with him, yes?
No, I'm on a different team.
Oh, you're on a completely different. But even then, you don't do co-authoring at all?
Well, yes, I understand the co-authoring. We'd have done it through, I think, there was a app on Google Drive. So I understand it from Google Drive. So I understand, I guess the same principle where you then brought it over, where I think it was Google Meet or something like that, where you were able to work in the same program all at the same time.
Okay. Similar to that, but what we want to highlight is that the content that you have, you can actually create it here, right? So you can co-author it from here. So you create your Word, your Excel, your PowerPoint, your OneNote, or your forms. I want to ask a question. You notice here that this screen is here. Can anybody tell me what's behind a Microsoft Teams? What happens when you create a Microsoft Teams? Does anybody know what happens? I'm gonna give you a hint. Share. Share. Anybody? Don't be
Become a
afraid.
collective community.
Okay, cool. Go ahead. You are going to open your mic, Shahara. Wow.
Yes, I think you can share documents and also put some notes in the documents with the team.
True. That is true.
I don't understand the question.
Go ahead.
I don't understand the question. What do you mean what happens when you create a team?
Okay. I'm asking, when you create a team, what happens? Meaning what happens, what exactly takes place in another application? What happens? I want to show the link between Teams and another application.
Yeah, I know that if you create, I think it's like that, right? If you create something in SharePoint, it also joins with team. And I think that's where you were pointing at, that if you create a team, it also creates spaces in SharePoint.
Correct, exactly. So the Teams, when you create a Teams, you can actually open it in SharePoint. It automatically creates a SharePoint for you. So I wanted to highlight that because not everyone knows that, right? SharePoint is basically the base for Microsoft Teams, right? Was everyone aware of that before? Besides Angelo and possibly Herbert, Greg, and Shahara? Anyone else? All right, no problem. So now that we're clear, I'm going to select Open SharePoint. So you're going to see that it actually has a SharePoint already. Now, what that means is that if you already have a Teams created for an operations department, a marketing department, a communications department, procurement department, there is no need to duplicate it and create a SharePoint. Once you create a Microsoft Teams, it automatically creates a SharePoint. And you can open the SharePoint by selecting the 3 dots over here and select Open in SharePoint. That's clear?
I have a question, because if you create a SharePoint at the SharePoint portal, you have the choices to create two different types of SharePoint site, so to speak. But in Teams, when you create a team, it creates a SharePoint site or portal for you. Which one does it create?
Sorry, I don't understand the question. You're asking if I'm not clear on the question. Please ask it again.
If you go to SharePoint and you try to create a SharePoint site,
yes,
it gives you the option to choose between 2 types of sites in SharePoint.
Yes, that is correct. If you create a communication site, or yes, that's true. It creates 2 different types of sites. So which one does it create? It's not a communication site. It creates a full-on site, right?
Okay.
So it creates the second option, right? So what it's highlighting to you, because remember, at the end of the day, what is the purpose of a SharePoint? It's, as it states, it is a point of sharing. It's really an area where you are able to share documentation together. But because of the fact that Microsoft Teams, you're not only sharing documentation, but you're also creating the documentation together, you're editing it, you're adding additional content, etc. You have to be able to have a SharePoint storing the content behind it, storing your messages, storing the meetings, storing the meeting minutes. So everything that comes from your Teams is stored in a SharePoint, okay?
And you cannot create a team without creating a SharePoint? Is there a...
No, it automatically creates a SharePoint.
Yeah. Okay.
Right, so you're not able to create a Teams without it creating a SharePoint, because it has to have a point of sharing in order to store the content associated with the Teams, which is why I highlighted that it's the base of it. You understand?
Yeah, understand.
Okay, not a problem.
Thank you.
Great, so now we're going to co-author together. So Julie is here with me, right? And we are going to create a new document. So we're going to create a Word file, something really simple, and we're going to call it Master Your Solutions. Let's create. All right. So we've opened that file, and now we're going to co-author together. Now, some tidbits about co-authoring, which I think probably Greg and some others would know already, but I just want to share again. When you are creating a document together, it's very important to do some critical things. Firstly, you need to turn on track changes, okay? That's the first thing that I would say. Because usually once I get into the co-authoring, one of the first questions that I'm asked is, Lace, how do we manage handling when additional persons join? I always say, ensure that you have track changes, okay? Another thing is identify critically who is going to work on which part. So for example, Julie and I are working on a marketing document together, or maybe we're working on an operations document. I may work on the introduction. And then I'm gonna insert a page break. Change can't be tracked. Okay. I'm gonna change this section to, let's see, just ops, operational plan. Oh, nice. And then I'm going to say, Julie, I would prefer that you work on this section. So I'll type it to her and I say, Julie, kindly work on the operational plan section. Now, the reason that I'm doing that is to prevent confusion. Because remember, as we create documentation together, everyone writes differently and has different voices. So when a document is being created, there should always be one owner, meaning one person is responsible for the overall flow of the document. And then you assign different parts and sections to each person. Okay? That's clear? All right, great. All right, awesome. So we can co-author together. So if you notice, Julie is already there and Julie is going to start typing. And she's already typed. There's a little delay here. So she's typing there and I can also type as well. This is the introduction for the discussion around how we move forward for. Right? So I'll have that. And then if you notice up the top here, there's a bubble that shows that Julie is actually using the document and I can go to the location that she is. It also highlights where she is in the document so I don't go there and distract her. Very important, right? So this co-authoring can take place. And for us, sometimes we have documents being co-authored with as much as 10 people at a time. And I can just imagine for procurement entities, they would have persons from maybe 15 or so, right? So what about others who are from other companies here? What would you like to know now in this co-authoring framework? Do you have any questions about it? Hello.
If you have people like share from other companies working on the same document, it's basically the same, right? You can see if you assign them a section in the document, you can see what they're working on, and it's basically the same as someone that's basically in your company, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
What would happen is for the guests, you wouldn't see their photograph, you just see their initials because there would be in a different domain.
Yeah.
So you would only see their initials, but it would be the same thing. And then what would happen is that you would see different colors. So Julie's working with me, her color is blue. As more persons grow, you'll see different colors come up for the distinction of the different persons in the document.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, great. And remember also too, you can open this in the desktop application. It doesn't have to say in Microsoft Teams, and it would be the same setup. Of course, naturally in the desktop environment, you have much more feature sets, right? So if I'm looking at the review and the track changes section, I can see a lot more. There's much more to use and do in this area, but you guys get the essential gist where you're able to co-author, right? Another thing that I just wanted to show you about dealing with documentation. Let me see if I can get this. Okay, include computer sound, right. When you're using the document, I notice a lot of persons are still in this scenario where they're sending the documents over email. Version control exists for the document already, you hear? So when it is that you create the document, so I opened it and I modified it at 1047. I opened it and I modified it at 1050 and Julie modified it at 1052. All these versions are tracked metadata-wise by the document already, by the application already. So you don't have to be saving version 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Unless it's a situation where you're saying, okay, you want to keep exact track of when you added a particular large set of data to it, or you've changed the entire template possibly, because that can be a scenario as well, depending on the type of work that is being done. But I just want to highlight that you do have these different scenarios. So if I select this version now, you'll notice that this has to do with the very first one. And if I go back, Then we have the second version where it was just my edit and this. And then after that now, we have this final version now, which we're using now here. So you notice that? And also the two versions, the two original versions here, they're not saved. They're read-only right now. So you can save them afresh if you want to have them. But I'm just highlighting that because I noticed that persons are still saving versions, still doing their own form of version control. But version control is done in Microsoft Word. Version control is done in SharePoint as well. And version control is also done in Microsoft Teams. So you don't have to be doing continual version control, as I said, unless it's a situation where you've changed the entire template of the document. Okay? I hope that was helpful.
I have a question for you. Are there key features in, like, for example, the traditional Word or way of working that you say, you know, you miss in, like, for example, the Teams kind of working?
Yes. So, for example, in the desktop version, so my recommendation is that if you are doing intense content creation, use the desktop version, because you don't, for example, I have an integration of Grammarly for the review. You won't have that in Teams. It's not going to be there. Then also too, I find that if you want to have, like, for example, let me check, I think it's read out loud. I don't think you have read out loud here. Then if you want to do like mail merge is not available here. So there's some features that are not available. I don't know all of them by heart. What I would say to you, Angelo, is if you want to use certain features, just use search. So remember when we had Clippy in the past, that was the little paper clip in Microsoft Word that you could use to help you find stuff?
Yes.
Clippy is basically the search bar now. So if you need to find something, for example, track changes, you can actually type it here and find it. So let's see if there's anything else. Read out loud. Read aloud. So as I said, it's not there. So read aloud is not there, but read aloud is actually on the desktop version here, and it's in review, I believe, read aloud. I personally like to use read aloud because I read way faster than I hear. So I prefer to review a document by hearing it than reading it in my mind, because my mind autocorrects quickly. So read out loud is not available in the version in Teams. So what you can do is you can search, use the search bar here, use the search bar up top here. But if you're doing heavy content, like if you're in procurement, if you're in legal, if you're in particular areas that require heavy use of a word processor, use the desktop version. If you are at a particular senior level and all you have to do is edit content at a minimal level, you can definitely use Teams. That would be my recommendation.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, man, you're welcome. Okay, great. So we're gonna close this section now.
I have a question.
Sure. Go ahead.
In order to use this feature, the SharePoint and the collaboration, do you have to create the web version first, or you can create the desktop document and then share?
Oh, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where you create it. As long as it's created, even if you create it on your phone, it's created. So for example, yesterday I was writing a document on my phone, right? And my phone and my work phone, my phone is my personal phone, but I have my work SIM and my personal SIM in the phone. And I was writing a document associated with my life. That document is accessible on any of the Office 365 platforms, on any of the devices that it's installed on. So once it's created via the web, in Teams, on your desktop, on your laptop, Mac, whatever, it's available and accessible. Clear?
So you can collab on any, whether it's the desktop one, when you don't have to create it on the cloud version first. You can create
Yeah,
it.
man, no, you can collaborate anywhere you want to. The
Okay,
collaboration aspect is available through Teams, you know, just to be clear. It's available through Microsoft Teams. But the co-authoring, which we're doing here, is available through the desktop version, it's available through the web version, and it's available through Teams. It's available everywhere. So you can even co-author on your phone. So I can co-author right now with Julie on my phone. You understand?
Yes, I do.
All right, great. No problem. Awesome. No, I just want to do, it's 11 o'clock. Okay, so I definitely want to do a quick check. And of course, we would have lost some time because of the fact that JPS wanted to play a little game and we had some fun. So I'm going to just go here and highlight where we've gone to. We've looked at these two items so far. So I'm going to highlight them in yellow. And of course, naturally, because we did lose a little bit of time because of the outage, naturally, we are a little behind and it's 11. So we're going to ask for us to go up to 11:30. As I told you, I will be going up to 12. So I'm glad that we did do that from beforehand. Maybe that was just a blessing in disguise. And we can move ahead and I can touch SharePoint and Power Automate now. Okay. Any questions before we move ahead? Let me change this to green. I don't want to change this to. Any other questions? Let me pause. Do you guys have any scenarios in your environment now at work based on what you're doing? You're saying to yourself, I wish I could do this faster. I wish I could finish this quicker. I wish I could be more effective at this so that I can go home and cook dinner or go out and have a drink or something to that effect. What are you seeing in your environment that you're saying, I really wish that I could use the modern workplace platform of Office 365 to help me with?
I have a question about that.
Sure.
Now, in the past, we've created some document sharing in SharePoint.
Yes.
For our team, but is there a way to copy that, let's say, template to create new sites based on what has been configured in what we have already created?
Okay, can you give me the exact scenario? That's the exact scenario you created on old.
Yes, like for example, the screen you have right now in front of you.
Yes, that's what I
conversations, documents, notebook, and basically we only have documents. All right, or we want only documents, and we have changed some what do you call it? Put some other things in there, and delete pages, delete site contents, and put a logo of your company. Is there a way to copy the whole thing to a new site? SharePoint site?
That's a good question. So you want to copy the old site framework to the new site framework that you're seeing now, essentially.
Yeah, I just want to duplicate it and give it another name, just to have, a different site, but based on the same configuration, but, for a different team.
No problem. That's fine. Yes, you can duplicate sites. So let's just go to SharePoint page. So I can select a site. Let's see all. And select a site. No, not this one. Let's not use that one. No, don't do that one. All right. I can select a site and I can duplicate it as far as I'm aware. Let us use, let me see which one I can use. Let's use brand. Let's use brand. Let me double check that. I think maybe what I can do is I can double check it first and see where exactly I can do the duplication now, because a little bit has changed with this side. So what I'll do is I'll just double check it. I know that once you create a teams though, you can duplicate the team. So let's come out of here. You can easily duplicate a team if you want to, right? So what I'll do is I will check that and get back to you just to make sure that we're clear and give you the exact steps instead of trying to play hero, right? Let me check that, get back to you, and also identify the scenario. Also, another thing that I would recommend, yes, that is also best instead of rushing it in this session. Usually when you're trying to duplicate a site, you want to make sure that the data or the content that you're probably duplicating or whatever you're mirroring it across to, it's clean. Now, there is an application called ShareGate that allows you to do the file transfer from one SharePoint site to another or from one SharePoint instance to another. So we could look at that possibly, Angelo. Just make that note, Julie, in terms of following up with Angelo on that, just to make sure that he's comfortable from a process standpoint and also a business standpoint, and also based on what we recommend from a Microsoft perspective as well, right? Okay, good. So any other questions? This is the time, you know, guys, this is the time to ask based on what you've been burning to resolve. This is the time to ask us how you can actually resolve that in a session like this before I move ahead to the SharePoint side. Any other questions? We're multitasking now. Greg, you're back, or are you still multitasking? Hello? Ashley, you're still there?
Yes, I am.
All right, Chandra. Oh, I see Dane is on. Hi, Dane. Dion, you're there. Wonderful. Shahari. Can you pronounce that name?
Shahira.
Wow. Shahira. Oh, that sounds much better than what I said. Okay. All right.
I'm still here.
Okay, wonderful. Herbert, you're still around? Still present? All right.
Yeah.
Larnell is preemptive. Larnell said, I'm here. I don't want you to call my name. I'm good. Okay, Jordan, you're still here? Jersino? You're still here? I see your bubble saying offline. Marcy is on. Okay, and Angelo, great. All right. Okay, so let's continue. So on the SharePoint side, you have the ability to create two types of sites with SharePoint. Now, as I told you, when you create a Teams, you are automatically able to create a SharePoint. We went into that, yes? So you see the link between SharePoint and Microsoft Teams. You can open the SharePoint once you go to the File section and select Open in SharePoint. It will open the SharePoint associated with that Teams for you. But like Angelo shared, when you want to create a new SharePoint or a new site, it will actually tell you that you can create two types of sites. You create a team site, which is what we said, Angelo, it is a team site. This is a team site. So when you create a Teams, it creates a team site. Then you have the communication site. Now, what's the difference between the two? For the team site, it's all about collaboration, management of tasks and events and activities, while a communication site is more for letting people know about what is going on associated with a topic, project, or activity, right? That's pretty much the difference between the two. So since we already automatically created a team site when we created the teams, let's create a communication site. And we're going to use this communication site to be the communication site for the team site that we had. So let's call it Master Your Solutions. Right? And we're going to say this is the site which describes in summary the wonderful projects from Master Your Solutions. Also select a language, and if you notice here, it's demoing to show you what it will look like online versus on your phone. You can select whatever language. Now, I know for some of you, you may be interacting with vendors or different companies from different companies across the world. So if you'd like, and you're dealing with persons on a multilingual level, you can create your site in a completely different language. It does not have to be English, right? So we're going to finish here. And that's pretty much all you need to do to create a site. Okay, that's it. So for those of you who would have come from the SharePoint background from about 10 or 15 years ago, where it was really hectic and very difficult to use, this is all you need to do to create a site nowadays. So I want to move away that misnomer that SharePoint is complicated. It is no longer complicated. SharePoint is simple, easy, clean, and fun, right? So this is the news site, or the communication site rather. And you can put your posts, you can put events and documents. So if you notice, it's already templated for you. All you need to do is change the content as you please, add the different events that you have, and this is your communication site. There are page details behind it as well that you can look at in terms of version history, the properties, and then there's also analytics around the site, which has to do with analytics around the page being visited. Now, naturally, there wouldn't be any because we just created it about 15 seconds ago, right? So this essentially is your communication site. So you have documents over here, which is the documents associated with the site. You have pages, right? You have site contents, and you have areas that you can edit. Okay, so let's go back to home.
I have a question.
Yes, Angelo.
Because you already created a team site.
Right.
And right now you create a communication site. How do you link it to the team site?
No, the communication site wouldn't be linked to the team site. They're two different sites.
Okay, because I see documents, right? So
right. So this go ahead, Angelo.
If I want to link this to the documents that's in the team site, is there a way to do that?
I'd have to check and see if that is possible because this is a completely different site. It's two completely different sites. So this is the communication site, and the site that we had before that was associated with this one. Let's go back here, open in SharePoint. Yeah. This is the site associated with the teams that we created, right?
Yeah, so it can be confusing if you have a team site, communication site with the same name.
Absolutely.
Site, and then you have a document section in there, but it's totally different.
Totally, it's true, because if you notice here, I have Master Your Solutions Fun Stories, and this one is Master Your Solutions. But you're absolutely right. If you're an administrator, it can be confusing. And I'm glad you pointed that out, and I did that deliberately because what I wanted to share is, for example, when I started doing these sessions, I created a lot of teams, and it caused quite a bit of headache for IT because they're saying, Lacey, you have all these teams that are not being used for days. When you're finished with the sessions, you need to delete them. So there needs to be some form of IT policy associated with how teams are created, how they're named, and how they're used, so that there isn't duplicity of effort and also confusion in the network. Right? Make sense?
Yes, makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, I love the questions. Anyone else has any additional questions before we move on? All right, so no additional questions. So now we're getting into Power Automate. Now, Power Automate is an automatic platform that deals with workflows and time-consuming tasks. So can somebody tell me about a time-consuming task that they have? Just feel free, and it's not Angelo. Angelo talked through the whole class right now, so it need to be somebody else. Somebody who had, you know, let me reach out. Jordan, hello. Let's give Jordan a ping. Okay, Jordan, glad to see that you're here. Question for you. Do you have any task in your office, right, that you just find annoying? You have to do it on a weekly, every 2 weeks, every month basis, and you just wish it could be done automatically? All right, I am not hearing Jordan. Anybody has any tasks like that in their environment?
All right, report writing.
All right, report writing. That one is a little different. That one can be solved by probably Power BI or a template structure that you have. Can you describe the report writing a little more for me? How do you write the report?
Oh, well, it's already templated. I'll just throwing out an idea because it's done weekly and monthly.
All right, not a problem. So maybe we can look at that. Another one that is mundane, guys, is like leave requests, approval requests, right? You usually have to get something approved. You usually have to apply for leave. Does most persons in here already have an automatic leave request flow? Or you have to do it manually? Feel free to type, open your mic, and also raise your hand and share.
That's something HR does. HR has their own application that, you know.
Okay, yes, so the HR has an application that you apply through?
Yes.
Okay, good, not a problem, not a problem. So let's not use HR.
But still, I'm curious how you do it with Power Automate.
All right, not a problem. So let's just get into Power Automate. You have tasks that you do on a regular basis that you probably don't even see as mundane because it's almost automatic. Maybe you are already acting in a machine-like function where you're just so used to doing it that you don't even realize that it's recurring. So for example, you have approval flows where you need to get approval from your manager for something. You need to have something added to a SharePoint from a Teams folder, something like that. Also with email, for example, and I'm going to show you something really cool with my analytics regarding going out of office, which I used recently. I'm so excited about that. Also, you have notifications. So there may be certain notifications that you want to have come to you. Like, for example, I used to have a flow for the news. So there were some news sites that I preferred to get news from, and I would have that flow push notifications to me every single day. The first one that I tested for like a short session was the weather forecast. Now, right now, weather forecast is included in everything right here. It's right here now, and you can see it all the time. But you can actually set up a Power Automate for that, where you can send your forecast to you. So for example, nowadays, news comes from so many different sources. And for you to sit and read CNN, Reuters, and many of these different places, it can take some time to go to all those different sites. So you could actually set up a Power Automate to pull from the different sites, to pull from the different social media platforms, as you can see here, and then it can send to you so that you can get the content in summary. Let's look at remote work as well. So for example, you could be tracking your working. So track your working hours. Let's select this one. So Flow actually needs to connect to Excel, and notification. So we're gonna continue. So once you're able to connect to the applications that you need, you select continue. And what Power Automate is going to do is it's going to go through a process flow, right? So what it's going to ask you is for an input. The input can be text, yes or no, a file, an email, or something. So a trigger is essentially like a button. As you can see here, it's a button. Something has to trigger the flow, whether it's an event or it's a manual trigger like I've pressed the button. Then what would happen next is it would add the content to a table, right? So remember, in this scenario, we are adding work hours. So you're adding it to the table based on location, the library, the actual file is what you need to get, and then you have other advanced options below there, right? And then after that, once that trigger has been set and it's been added to the table, it will send back a communication to you to say that the time has been logged successfully. So this is essentially what you can use Power Automate for. Now, Power Automate can actually be used for even more complex automation. So for example, there's one customer that I know very well that uses Power Automate at an enterprise resource planning level, meaning that they use it as an ERP, right? So Power Automate is that powerful. You can actually use it for those type of scenarios, all right? So everything is clear there? Why am I not going back? Okay, great.
Okay, I have a question.
Sure.
Okay, so what if I want to implement a system where I would like to track the deliverables in the office? So let's say I work for the finance team and we have certain deliverables that we should, meet, and I need to implement a system where I don't have to continuously, manually type in, like send an email to say, okay, this needs to be done. The time is, the due date is such and such. So how do I implement like a system where it can go out like every week, or if I want to change it to monthly, how do I go about that?
Well, what we would have to do is we'd have to assess the inputs first, because if you notice, this is a process flow. So the first thing is we'd have to know what your process is. After identifying what the process is, if you notice, this is like a program. So we could build it from scratch. We could go to the create section, or we could look if there is already a flow template that exists for that scenario, right? So you can create a flow from scratch, or you can actually take it from a template. So for that specific scenario though, Larnell, I would take it as an action. I'd ask Julie to note it down. And what we can do is, do you already have the process outlined already?
Well, it's in a spreadsheet form. So the due dates, the deliverables, and so on. It's in a spreadsheet form.
Oh, but you're managing a project.
Well, it is to keep a track of all the deliverables that each individual in the team has to accomplish at a certain time.
Oh, and that has to do with a project that each of them has to.
It's not necessarily a project. It would be like, for instance, monthly reports, budget, like certain stuff like that.
Okay, that to me, I wouldn't use an automate to manage that. I would use project, and simply because there's nothing automatic about following up with people, if following up with people is something that you have to do, and it's not automatic. It can change on a whim. So it's not consistently the same. Following up with you may be different from following up with Angelo, different from Herbert. So I would recommend using Microsoft Project instead of Power Automate. Power Automate is for tasks that are the same all the time, no matter who or what. That's clear?
Yeah, to some extent.
All right. If it's unclear, we can definitely take it offline and we can talk about it. But you said specifically that you are following up on deliverables with people. If that is the case, then really and truly, what you need to do is you need to manage it. It's a project that you're managing or different activities. It's just a matter of having that, unless it's a situation where you could look at having a Power App where they could update on each of their deliverables, and once it is completed, then it can close.
Yes, that's definitely what
That's what you, okay.
Yes.
So I would recommend this one instead. I would recommend Power Apps for that, not Power Automate. So Power Automate, Power Apps, you'd create an app for everybody. Everybody has a deliverable, their app interface comes to them. Have you finished the deliverable or not? What's the outstanding action? When do you expect it to finish by? And you can take it from there. That's what I would suggest for you. So we can talk about that one and we can help you build it. Okay. So that's essentially Power Automate. Power Automate can be a little technical for those of you who may have a programming background. If you are open to it still, Power Automate will be easy for you. If not, it can still also be easy because you can also learn and read, and that's fine. You can practice, and there are lots of videos on Power Automate on YouTube. And I'll share some of the ones that I use as well, right? So that's essentially Power Automate. I'm going to move on now to My Analytics. Now, as I said, My Analytics is my favorite because My Analytics is the only thing that produces analytics about you. Now, I want everybody to go to this site for themselves, and I want everybody to take the time to look at what they're seeing. My Analytics, now, when you guys hear analytics, what do you guys think about first?
I'm being analyzed.
Okay, cool, no problem. So there's analysis. So what we find is that analysis is typically done on everything else except us. It's done on finances, it's done on inventory, it's done on marketing, it's done on sales heavily. It's done with everything else, but we actually don't analyze how we work, how productive we are, how we interact with others. We typically depend on recency to determine if someone has a certain pattern or habit. But then what you might find is if it's actually analyzed, it's the opposite. So let's get into what My Analytics shows. My Analytics shows you how much you're focusing, meaning time outside of meetings, calls, and chats. Well-being, are you taking the time enough to disconnect and recharge? It shows your network, and it shows how much time you spend collaborating, right? It also gives you tips at the end in terms of how you can improve, right? So if you notice, my productivity insights on a whole speak to the fact that I need to focus on nightly recharge. I'm distracted by email, and I had a new set of collaborators, right? And also, let's go, it gives me suggestions. So it says, ensure that I have a nightly recharge by protecting the golden sleep time period. Then for the during work hours where I read all my email in 30 minutes, is suggesting that I take some time to focus to do that. And then the collaborator section actually shows me the additional collaborators that were added, right? So let's go into the focus area. So the focus area actually speaks to, okay, this is how much time I spent to focus over the past 4 weeks. And what are the areas that are the days that need focus review? So what the focus area does is it says, okay, I see times free in your calendar. I am going to book them as focus time. So let's go into my calendar. So if you notice here, I have a decent amount of focus time. But what it's saying to me is that over the next 2 days, I need to review my focus time because of the fact that I have a clash with both of them. So the focus time is clashing with time that I have to take a break and time that I have other activities to do as well. Okay, so that's why it has that attention there with the exclamation mark. So I need to review and adjust it. And once I adjust it, it will clear. So let me show you now. So say, for example, I move this up. So let's fix it. All right, and let's fix this one now as well. Let's refresh the page and let's check it now. All right, so it looks like it could be speaking to the, adjacency, okay. All right, so let's see if there's anything else. Why it keeps doing that. I'm not seeing any reason why I would have that challenge. But that's weird. I'm not understanding why that area needs, because I would have changed that already. All right, so we'll come back to that. It's the first time I'm seeing this. Normally it's just fine once I make the change. So if you notice when we go down here, it will show me the ability to focus and the area to collaborate. So I spend more time focusing over the last 4 weeks than collaborating. The most time I collaborate in is the week of the 30th to the 5th. But for the other weeks, my collaboration time was pretty much the same, in the 30%, while in this area it was 55%. It speaks to distracted email again and planning my week. So those are suggestions that, those are observations that Microsoft has noted. And then it also gives suggestions based on each. All right, so let me move to well-being now. So well-being has to do with the management of your downtime. Now, in our very, very active world, it can be a situation where you probably look at this and you see no purple tile because you're working long hours, you're working after time, and that can actually lead to burnout. So you want to be able to have a well-being section that allows you to be able to focus there and ensure that you can manage your time and manage the time that you disconnect from work in order to continue to serve properly. So let me pause and ask if there are any questions about this area. Have you guys been using anything at all to analyze the way how you work?
No.
No, okay. Any reason why you haven't done that? Go ahead.
No, I think you just jump into autopilot and just move.
Jump into autopilot and just move, but even the pilot have a plan.
Yes,
Too
you
busy,
normally have a
too busy.
destination.
Okay, so let me ask something, and this is something I have to ask myself as well. If you're managing everything else except you, what can happen if you're
Burnout.
always in autopilot?
Burnout.
All right. Oh, there, crash, right? Okay, right. So you want to be able to ensure that you get an understanding of what is happening with your time and how you utilize it. Because you could be of a view. Remember, we as humans, we operate based off recency. So we may say something like, yeah, man, I got some rest because I got rest 2 nights in a row. But what you may not remember is that for the past 8 weeks before, you weren't resting on the weekend at all, right? So you want to be able to manage this and look at this to ensure that you manage yourself so that you can focus. Because your well-being has a lot to do with how well you focus. All right? Let's go into network. So your network now has to do with your interaction with your internal and external colleagues. So it actually shows you how much time you spend with each person, your response time, your reading percentage, and the total time, as I said before. So say, for example, you may have a manager and you look and you say, boy, how long I take to respond to my manager? 57 minutes? Wow. And then I realize that I may respond to somebody. There's none here because I don't necessarily have to respond, but then you look and you respond to this person. This is 3 minutes, and then you're taking 57 minutes over here, and you're looking over here and you're taking 2 hours. What is that? Right? Those things have to improve. So you use these things in order to get an idea of how you can better operate. So this actually helps you have very valid and realistic and practical appraisal conversations with your manager as well as with your team. Now, just a note, this is my data, right? It's not data that my manager has. So I can use this to have an informed conversation about what he may perceive or what he may understand in order of associated with my performance, right? Then we have collaboration, which has to do with the way how you collaborate, meaning how you interact in meetings. So high attendance, invitations sent at least a day's notice, no emails or chats during the meeting, no overlaps with other meetings, online meetings joined on time, the added Teams link, and the during work hours. Now, this is my favorite chart. Why do you think this chart, let me just zoom in a little. Why do you think this chart would be helpful here? Are you guys looking at anything like this for yourself? You guys got to click on the, go ahead, Dion.
Oh, I was saying no.
Right. So why do you think that a chart like this would be important for you? Can you tell me why? Can anybody share with me why?
Well, I think it would be when you're most productive.
Exactly. You want to know how productive you are. And when are you most able to produce the best and high quality intellectual content for your organization, for yourself, otherwise, right? It's very important to know that. So for example, you may have somebody say, I'm a morning person, I'm a night owl. Well, I would ask them to look at this. When do you work best? So for me, I am a morning person and I get up really early in the morning. I work best between the hours of 6 and 3. After that, as you can see, not happening, right?
Is there a chart like this, pre and post COVID?
That's a good question. That's such a good question, Angelo, because when I looked at pre and post COVID for myself, because I have some screenshots of when I was doing this before COVID, I remember, for example, my well-being had no purple at all, right? And then when you look at this area here, I don't think this, oh no, this chart wasn't available pre-COVID. It just came out like probably a year or so ago. So it wasn't available pre-COVID. However, what I can try and see is if it's a situation where the data was there and the chart can be generated, because this is really from Power BI. It's a Power BI type of chart, right? But this helps you in order to see how productive you are. And it's not really to argue and say, boy, before COVID, me did I do less and now I'm stressed out, because that sounds like where Angelo is going. However, it is a point to highlight, okay, my most productive hours are here, and so I can give you the best of myself in this period, but after that, it's best that I actually take the discharge time. You understand what I mean? You get how that conversation can become more rich and practical?
Yep.
Right. So no more recency conversations, no more feelings, no more I feel you work more than and I don't feel you work enough because you do. No, it's more practical. Now let's get into the leadership tab. Now the leadership tab has to do with, oh no, let me share these before I jump here. Now look at this. Research shows every person added to the meeting group over 7 reduces decision effectiveness by 10%. All right. So you see this now, right? And then it also shows small and short meetings are more conducive to decision making as they prompt attendees to communicate faster and focus on getting the work done.
You can make a screenshot of that.
Sorry?
So I need to make a screenshot of that.
Yes. So you notice most of us have this concept where you have a meeting, it needs to be an hour. That's not true. Some meetings are 15 minutes, some meetings are 5, some meetings are 20, some are half an hour, some are 3, depending on what has to be discussed, right? A meeting doesn't have to last as long as an hour by default. It really depends on what you're meeting about, right? So it's very important to get that information, right? So let's move to the last area, which is leadership. Now, leadership has to do with the way how you interact. And for this session, what I wanted to do was I added a number of persons from my organization. And the reason that I wanted to do that was to just show you what it looks like to have persons. If you are a leader and you do have persons reporting to you, what you should be looking at. Now, the truth of the matter is that leadership is not only about the work, it's also about how you communicate with your team, right? If you're always communicating with your team last minute, you always have an emergency, there's always a problem, there's always this, always that, then your team can look at your scenario as you're always in a rush, you're always in an emergency, right? And that can be a little off-putting. So what you can do is you can also look at the fact that, okay, how am I interacting with my team? Am I multitasking while we're having a conversation? So sometimes you may be talking to someone and you can sense when they are not paying attention to you. Like I've done enough of these sessions to know who is on the call, who is calling somebody, who has left the room, who is writing an email, and all of those things. Because we know that if there's not much dialogue, typically the person is doing something else. Has the person RSVP'd? Now, this is also a part of meeting etiquette. If you're hosting a meeting, right, and persons don't respond, it can also be indicative of whether or not they're managing their time. Respond. It's either a yes or no. If you don't respond, it means you probably haven't gotten a chance to look at it or you didn't make the time to look at it. So actually take the time to respond and be decisive about your response. Did you join the meeting on time? Now, this is an area of sharp improvement for us. Timelines are important. So if you're going to be late, send a message in the Teams chat. I'm running late. Let people know. It's a work in progress, so let's not beat up ourselves about that. Then overlapping meetings. Now, this can be a real challenge for a lot of people, especially at executive level. Try and minimize this as much as possible and pre-check your calendar at the beginning of a week. I would recommend look through and see what may clash and get rid of the clashes. Ask for the help in advance. Don't wait too late. I suffer from that a lot as well. I'll be totally frank. And I've really had to make a concerted effort on Monday to look at my entire week and say, okay, do I have any clashes? Do I need help from my team? What kind of support do I need here? And it's a steady work in progress, right? And I've been accredited to my analytics, which allows me to look at what I'm doing with my time, how I'm using my time, how I'm communicating with my team, and how I can do better. Okay? Was the meeting less than an hour? For me, it's 100% because most times if I have an hour meeting, I end within the time, or I have less than an hour, right? So if you notice here, it will suggest when the last one-on-one was with the person, and when the next one-on-one is. Now, how it pulls this data is based on the meetings that you have with the person. And then for these persons, if you notice, I haven't had any one-on-ones with them, but it's just to show you, right? Because not everybody here reports to me or any at all. But it's just to show you how it works. And then it will suggest over the next 2 weeks where to plan the one-on-ones and how, right? And then it goes to the quiet hours impact. Now, what is this saying to me? When I impacted my own quiet hours, I am impacting other person's quiet hours. Now, why is this important to note? Because we don't operate in isolation. We work in teams. So when you're working late and you're operating late, it impacts the team dynamics. And that's very important to understand. So if you're stressed out and you're burning out or you're going through something, it affects the team. If you are working on a proposal late and you're sending it at 3 o'clock and everybody is copied, they get the email, right? Or you're working with somebody until 11 o'clock, you're not working alone, most likely you would have worked with somebody, right? So what are we really saying with all of these analytics? What we're saying is, instead of us presuming and assuming, we are going to start analyzing ourselves in order to be better present in how we use the technology and also how we serve using the technology. Understood? You see how important that is? That's clear?
Yes.
Okay, no problem. So that is my analytics in a nutshell. Let me just get this there. Any questions for my analytics? All right, no questions. Everybody want to go eat lunch, so no problem. Let me go to Microsoft Stream. So Microsoft Stream is the area where you store your videos and your content. And Microsoft Stream essentially allows you to upload, and everything that is stored associated with you is there. So I'm going to go to my content and videos. And if you notice, I have some sessions with the shared services team. Some of the shared services team is here. And shared services team, I'm just going to share a few of this, right? So that the persons can see. I'm going to share this, and when you click on it, you're able to see the recording. You're able to see the transcript. So remember, when the transcript is being recorded, this is the transcript. You can actually download it. You can edit it. You can have closed captions. You can share this file. You can like it. You can view the settings in terms of ensuring that persons can't access it. But let's go to another area as well. View settings, no. All right. There is an area that I want to show you guys. No, I'm not seeing it. Hold on. Where is it? All right, let me check. Oh, no, I think this, no. Oh, I wonder if it moved. I'm not seeing, there's an area here that allows me to edit the video. So what I want to do is I want to edit that section. So what I'm gonna do is once I find it, I go across to it, but there is a section that allows you to edit the video. So let me go back, maybe it's in this section here. Update video details, here we go, wonderful. So when it is that you upload a video to Microsoft Stream, and this is very important to note because we've gotten this request a lot from customers, you can actually ensure that you're only able to share it with certain people. It can't be displayed to everybody, right? You can delete the video, replace the video, you can upload other things. And and this says allow everyone in your company to view this video. Right now, that's not the case. Right now, it's only these persons that are allowed to see the video, right? So that's very important to note when you're recording content. Make sure you verify if everybody can see it, especially if it's confidential data, right? Ensure that you check that. So let's just go back to home. So this is the general home area, which basically gives you a summary of all the videos that you have in your stream account. Then you can discover videos, channels, people, and groups. The My Content session has to do with content associated with me as Lacia Holmes Graham. You can also create a video. You can create a live event, record the screen, and you can also search in other ways. So this is essentially Microsoft Stream. And as you can see here, you can use this site to store the content, to store the transcripts, to be able to have the captions associated with the transcript and the feedback. Okay. So this is essentially it for today, everybody. I would like to thank you for joining. We have 9 minutes remaining, and I would like to thank you for your patience with the Jamaica Public Service Company that took away the light earlier. It was 17 minutes in total that we didn't have light, so apologies for that. But thank you so much for joining, and thank you very much for being a part of this session. What I'm going to do now in the last 9 minutes is actually use an app called Microsoft Forms, and we're going to create the feedback form together. So when I'm in Forms, I can select New Form. When I go to New Form, I'm going to call it Master Your Solutions Feedback Form. I'm going to add a new one. We'll say rating. How would you rate the session? Right? We can pick another symbol. Let's put stars. Let's add a question. And the next one. Do you have any suggestions for improvement? You can do a long answer. Just add another one again. Let's use text. What application was your favorite? All right, great. So we've basically finished it. It's really just 3 questions. I'm gonna change the theme. So I'm gonna change the theme to a nice, let's use this one. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to share it. I can copy the link and then I will send the link to you in the chat for you to give the feedback. There you go. So there's the link in the chat for you to give the feedback. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to preview. So this is what it's going to look like to you. On the mobile, it will look like this to you as well if you're on your phone. And then I am going to be looking at the responses at the same time. Oh, all right, no problemo. Anyone can respond. All right, let's try again. So if you notice a while ago, I selected anyone can respond. and that changed the scenario. All right, so let me take a look at the responses in the meantime. I don't have any responses yet, teary-eyed. So feel free to go ahead and start answering the survey. I selected and gave you a new link there. So feel free to answer, and then I'll be seeing the responses here, and also I'll be able to open it in Excel. It's just 3 short questions, so it shouldn't be longer than 3 minutes. All right, great, awesome. I like that. Somebody said, get a generator. Oh, wow, that's so funny. I love that one. Okay, I'll have the conversation with my team about it, okay? I'll ask them if we can get a generator, all right? I like that one. Oh, wow, that's so funny. All right, guys, so we have 4 responses so far out of, we have a total of, let's see, 1, 2. So it's 9 people, so we just need 5 more responses. Herbert, if Greg isn't back yet, can you just call him to do the survey, please? Hopefully he's back though. Okay, so we have only 4 responses. We just need, okay, no problem. Thanks for your time. I will be leaving now. Have a nice day. Oh, so sweet.
Want soup, please?
All right, so we have 6 responses in total. So we just need 3 more responses out of the 9, and then we should be good to go. All right, nice. So we have 7 responses so far. And that's just 2 more that we need. And then we should be good to go. Okay, just 2 more, unless that's Herbert and Greg. Dion, you are in the same office as Herbert and Greg?
Not physically.
Not physically. Would you want to ping them? Because I have a feeling.
Oh, we're not even in the same space right now.
No, that's fine.
No.
Would you be able to just...
No, Herbert is here. Greg is still on the road and not getting it.
Oh, I see. All right, not a problem. So I think we have 7, so it's just 1 more person then if Greg is on the road. So it's just 1 more person. Everyone has responded. Just feel free to raise your hands if you've responded. There's just 1 more minute to the end of the time, and I don't want to take up too much of your time now. All right, fabulous, fabulous, wonderful, wonderful, nice, nice. I know Angelo and Arnell responded. More than likely, you guys responded already. Yes, I figure. All right, wonderful. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining. We really appreciated your time. Feel free to share how much you enjoyed the session and what you enjoyed about the session on LinkedIn. I'll also share with you my LinkedIn handle. Let me see if I can just bring that up. All right, so let me share. You should be able to find me here on LinkedIn. So feel free to add me, and you can also follow us at Inova Solutions NV as well. You can find us there on LinkedIn. Let me put that in the chat as well. La, 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 la. Right? Okay, great. So you can also follow us there and feel free to join our lives and share as well. Feel free to hashtag adoption and hashtag Inova Solutions and hashtag yeah, I like those hashtags. And you can do my analytics as well. We need more of that in Jamaica and all over the Caribbean. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining the session. It was great. Follow us, like us, enjoy your wonderful day. Have a great, 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 great lunch. Make sure you keep safe, sanitized, and just keep joyful, everybody. Thank you for joining the session, and you have a great, great, great afternoon.
Thank you. You too. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.